Truths. I'm Joyce Cook. I'm one of the hosts of Sobering Truths, and my co host is Miss Ira Stevens. She's coming to us remote. And due to the events of this last week with Charlie Kirk, we're going to dedicate our program to Charlie Kirk, to his memory. And
Well, yeah,
just,
and I hate to interrupt, but I think it fits along with ours because he was a truth teller, and that's
yes,
what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring the truth on issues that a lot of people resent.
yes, absolutely. Iris, I was just thinking, like the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, those were important dates and events in our collective American minds. And everybody remembers where they were. Do you think that the assassination of Charlie Kirk will be in that category?
Normally, I wouldn't say that it would, but in this case, I think so because it has been such a major outrage. Because so many of us thought so highly of him. And as I have told people before, he didn't come onto my radar, but maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago. But I love so much watching his ability to debate. And I know there were thousands of college kids that loved him. He had such a pivotal role in this last election. People have
Yes,
said that he probably helped 10% for Trump, Trump's getting elected because he brought so many students in to vote for Trump.
true.
And we've got so many church leaders and spiritual leaders that were really, really, crazy about him. And of course, we've seen this 24/7 nonstop coverage of this assassination. And I was so happy when we didn't just call it a killing, we call it assassination because it
Yes,
was based on his spiritual beliefs along with his political beliefs, and he was attacked for that. He'd been called names and everything, but this was the final insult,
yes.
to him. So yeah, I think he will be remembered. I think it will remember, and I'm really hoping that people are so outraged by this that there's a rising up of other people to take his place. I don't think anybody ever take his place.
No.
I've told people before he's kind of like Rush Limbaugh. There just won't be another one of him. But I think we need people to be willing to go around to colleges and debate with students about things that they think they know, but they really don't.
Yes. Um, some have described him as a Christian martyr, and I don't think that's hyperbole. Charlie made no bones that he was a Christian, and he wanted to debate and engage with people, even those that didn't agree with him. That's what impressed me about him. And so far, what we know about the shooter is that according to Fox News, he's a 22-year-old. His name's Tyler Robinson. Also, that's the alleged shooter now. Also, according to CNN, I'm using them as a source just in case any of our listeners are liberal, so they won't say you're just using Fox. Um,
Well, I
uh,
don't get Fox, so I've watched a huge amount of news, and I don't even get Fox News. So I'm watching it on totally different channels and um,
right.
on the internet, written.
Right, there's so many, but according to CNN, a family member of the suspect told investigators that Robinson spoke negatively of Kirk before the shooting, and investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel with casings, including uh, that had words carved on it. It says, "Hey fascists, catch this," or "catch." So, where do you think he heard the word fascist?
Well, and see, I've got all this documented here, and we're kind of going a little different way than I kind of thought we were. But for years, this actually even goes back to Reagan and Nixon, where
Mm,
the media just attempted to destroy these men. Everything they did was wrong. And of course, if you have any experience with the media right now, you know that 93% of what they cover on Trump is negative.
yes.
93%. You see, that's full of lies, because there's no way anybody can have that much negative about them. And I've been
Right.
appalled at it. This has been since he first came down the elevator and ran as a Republican. They couldn't wait to take him apart. And this has happened now for years. It's been horrendous. The Democrats and their arm of the media, because that's what it is. The media, the people want to call them legacy media now, and I think that's horrendous, because legacy is a
Right.
positive. Legacy is something you get from a relative when they leave you something when they die. They're not legacy media. They're much closer to what Trump called was fake media, and I like to call them the Pravda media. People who
Yeah.
don't know what the Pravda media are, Pravda was the outlet for the communists when
Yes.
they were in power in Russia. And it was ironic, because the word Pravda in Russian means truth, but they were the outlet for that party. And we see the media nowadays, the alphabet media is what I call them too.
Yeah.
They are the outlet for the Democrat Party, and they have continued to with the Democrats stir up anger and hatred, taking anything anybody said and twisting it to things that it didn't mean. But this is to be expected, because one of the things that I looked at when all of this happened was the Bible, because we are in the end times as far as I'm concerned. I think
Amen to
based on
that.
and things that we're on the end times, and um, God said that in the last days, in 2 Timothy 3, he said perilous times would come. And
Yes.
the translation for that is ragingly insane. And if we're not in a ragingly insane time right now, I don't know what it is. He said men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money,
Hmm.
boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having, they just have no value whatsoever. They
Mm.
are anti God all the way. And that's what we're seeing now. And that's what we see coming out of the mouths of so many of these people right now. I have been appalled at seeing the ugly comments made. There are a lot of political people. I don't like AOC. I think she's very bad for the country. I don't think she knows a tenth
Agreed.
of what she knows. I can't even imagine saying anything as horrible as these have said if something happened to her.
Yeah.
It's Christians don't think that. Real Christians don't think that way. So it's just been appalling watching what these people have said about his death, Charlie's death,
Yeah.
and it will come back on them, because God also says that when you hate, you have basically committed murder at that point. He
Yeah.
says, those who hate enough to wish someone harm or encourage others to harm their enemy are themselves guilty of murder, even if they never touch a trigger. And those people who pull the trigger, who encourage a murderer's heart so that he does the deed and stand back and claim innocence, are as guilty as the one who pulled the trigger. And so these people who put these cute little laughing emojis, these people are saying,
Hmm.
good riddance. They are just as guilty as the guy who pulled this trigger.
I saw one where they had a little cartoonish drawing and blood gushing out of his neck. These people need to be made to watch the graphic video. I wish I'd not seen it.
I
Um,
think
I,
that's the problem. I think they have seen so many graphic. I mean, they play video games, which now are hugely graphic. They see movies, which are graphic. They see this all the time. So I'm not sure that making them watch it. I think probably some of them downloaded it and are watching it over and over and over and over
oh
because they
yeah,
get
it's
a
probably
thrill.
satisfying them in some
Yes.
in a sick way. And I was told by a gamer that that phrase that was on the casing, "Hey fascist catch," that was on a video game. And is that is that just random? No, they probably meant for it to be like that. And I'm sick to the back teeth of hearing fascist, Nazi, existential threat. They probably don't even know what fascist is. And these people on MSNBC, The View, et cetera, need to shut their pie holes. They really
Well,
do.
yes, and you forgot a basket of deplorables. Remember when Hillary Clinton called us a basket of deplorables? I got my ex-husband a T-shirt with
Yeah,
that on it. He loved it. He thought that was so funny. But they've called us every name in the book, and the more you call people that, the more it gets entrenched in their minds, and the more people begin to believe it. Of course, that is that aphorism. You repeat something over and over and over, and if it becomes the truth, whether it was started
yeah,
out the truth or not. And so we've just seen this constantly with the left and with the Democrats. And yes, I am blaming the Democrats as
me
far as I'm
too.
concerned. And when I don't know how many people know this, but I have this documented too. I went online and watched it in the House of Representatives when they tried to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk in the House of Representatives. They had a moment, and when I think it was Lauren Boebert had suggested they actually have an open prayer, Democrats threw a fit. And if
They
you'll go and
did.
look at that, you'll see how they screamed and yelled, and the Speaker of the House could not get them under control. It's as if the very concept of prayer drives these people insane.
Maybe Paul can pull that up and we can look at it in a minute where they did that.
Well, that
But
goes along with, the 2012 convention where they
yes,
tried 3 times to put God and Jerusalem back in the Democrat platform, and there was such hatred. I mean, I sit there and watch these people and the looks on their faces. And when they screamed no, that they didn't want it, finally, the third vote, the leader was so and knew that this would be such bad publicity. He said, okay, he said, I think we got it that time and we heard the positive. But in no time, all 3 votes, they were outvoted as far as putting God back. That stuff just stays with you. When
yes,
you've got a party that has that many people in it that have this visceral reaction to anything Christian.
yes.
The
And
chair would ask that all
okay, here it comes. This is what we were talking
the chair
about.
would ask that all members present in the chamber and those in the gallery please rise for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family.
That was apparently the moment of silence.
Yeah, some of them stood for that. I don't know if any Democrats did. Not sure.
Yeah, they did.
Not saying they didn't, but I don't want to accuse them of something. There's their grumbling.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise? Shh.
Ah,
Let's wait a minute. Wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh.
shameful. That is shameful. And
Yes, it's unbelievable in the United States of America that our own House of Representatives could have people in it that hate God and hate the concept of prayer and praying for someone like Charlie Kirk so much that they would totally disrupt.
yes, well, okay. Did you look at the kid's eyes, the suspect's eyes in his mugshot? Those eyes are dead, a dead soul. And I was thinking of Ephesians 6:12, which says it explains a lot about what's happening. It says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness in this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." So we're in a spiritual battle. Look at his eyes. They are
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah, this is not human. This is spiritual. And I think we've got people that have literally lost their souls.
Yes,
They have such an evil reaction to anything, any kind of Christian, any kind of spiritual ideas, and then they claim that we are, and they can't see the truth. And God says that they won't be able to see the truth. God says that there are people who, when they refuse to see the truth, He puts scales over their eyes, so they're incapable of seeing the truth. And that's
absolutely.
what I think we have today. Is we've got people who are incapable of seeing the truth, but I think it was caused by this constant pounding by leftists, and I'm
Yes,
sorry, Democrats and the media, constant pounding about how evil we are, the other side is, and how we're responsible for everything evil, when most of us are trying to live, or at least I have to say, most of the people I know are trying to live a Christian life. And, we're not seeing our side do these assassinations, these killings. And that's
right.
something that's very frustrating too, because that's coming out of the media. I know after the attempted assassination of Trump last year, the first thing was out of their mouth was, the guy was a Republican. He voted Republican and all this. Well, it took several days to point out, for the truth to come out that he was just as far as you could be from that. That
Yeah,
he apparently voted in a primary as a Republican. Of course, we see that here in Arkansas since we have open primaries. We
sure.
have people who come in and vote for the most liberal candidate, liberal Republican in the Republican primary, so that they will be easier to beat, or so that they will get a liberal person in that office. And so every one of these shooters, and I have followed this intently over the years, these shooters, most of them, the very day or the day after that this happens, the media says they were Trump supporters, they were this, they were Republicans, they were this. You wait a day or two, three, four, you come down and you find out the trail, and you find out that they were the very opposite of that. And that's another issue, another area where we're just seeing lies after lies. And who is the father of lies?
Satan. And
Exactly.
this is satanic. And I just wanted to say another Bible verse, Hebrews 4:12. It says, "For the word of God is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even the division of soul and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart." Now, Charlie Kirk simply used words as a way to persuade, but apparently it was cutting to their hard hearts, and they didn't like it. You
Well, a
know,
lot of them protested and resisted. They hated. And what was interesting was so many of them, especially as college kids, had been so brainwashed. They were simply coming up there parroting. They couldn't think themselves. They were simply parroting what had been said. And all he would do would be ask a couple of questions, and they just sit there dumbfounded because they couldn't answer them. It could not get beyond what an instructor or someone else had programmed them to say. And
right?
I guess the most amazing one was when he would come up and he didn't force people to come up and talk to him. They went to the front of the line to be able to question him and whatnot. And several times, they were people who were very strongly promoting the trans lifestyle and things like that. And he said, "What is a woman?" And they could not answer the question, "What is a woman?" Because it said, "Was anybody who wants to be a woman?" He said, "No, no, don't use the word woman, because you don't define a word using the word being defined in the
Yeah.
definition." And he would say, "No, use it with," and they could not answer him. We have a Supreme Court justice who couldn't answer the question, "What is a
Mm-hmm.
woman?"
Ketanji Brown.
Now, where are they getting this? Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah. Where are they getting this?
It's
Um,
from the top down almost.
yeah. And why isn't a if the Democrats say, "Oh, we're innocent, we're not doing anything," why don't they stand up right now, their leadership, and say this has got to stop? Why don't they do that? Why don't the people in the media stand up and say that? Why don't the women on The View get up and say we cannot be calling people Nazis and threats to democracy and fascist and all
Killers.
this?
Mhm.
They just
And,
can't
and
do
that's
that.
they are particular because our media is particularly bad about that. I look at the, the small number of Christians that are out in Hollywood and doing, movies and things, and how they get treated and how they get ostracized. And then you see, I have never watched The View. I've only watched clips from it. And if the shows are as bad as the clips, I, for the life of me, cannot imagine people entering that sewer, with these people,
Oh, I
because it's
know.
simply evil. When they call people names and they treat people. I saw a clip the other day of after this had happened of Whoopi Goldberg, and I was just appalled. We have had some of our Democrat leaders come out and say that this can't happen. We need peace, but they're also some of the ones who have promoted this,
Right.
very encouraged this, with the way that the other language that they use. I'm not saying they're out telling people to go kill. I'm saying when you call people Nazis, that automatically reduces them to something that can be killed, because what did we do to the Nazis? We fought a war against them. My dad was in World War II. He fought in Europe to destroy the Nazis. So when you have that, when you start calling people here Nazis, then you're giving permission, implicit permission, that they deserve to be killed.
Right. And they should be, forced to watch some newsreels and taught what real Nazism is and was and what fascism is. And does Trump go out and kill millions of people and put them in concentration camps? No, nobody would stand for that. Nobody would vote for him if he did that. But they just can't stand that people have different ideas. They couldn't stand that Charlie had different ideas and that he could defend his ideas with, with thoughtful rhetoric. He just and they want to fight. It's funny, Iris. The Democrats, liberals, whatever communists you want to call
Leftists.
them, they don't. They're scared of debates. They really are.
Because they
And
don't have the facts, they don't have the truth on their side. That's the
they don't
problem.
have the truth on their side. If they would just sit down and humanize someone instead of just automatically vomiting out fascism and blah blah blah, maybe.
Well, that's the easiest way to debate with people, is just to say, call them names,
Yeah,
to respond instead of responding, because they can't respond in truth. They can't respond in facts. I've watched, I don't know how many of his videos. I have binged on his videos, watching not necessarily him, but watching the people who came up try to defend their positions, and
yeah,
they didn't have the truth. They didn't, but they thought they did. Some of them, he pointed out, the obvious, and he was always kind. I never saw him be ugly. I would have been much uglier than he would have been if I were in the same position. So I salute him for being a wonderful person, because he never got ugly and called them names and
right,
things like that. The worst he'd do is say, "This has gone long enough. Goodbye. Thank you for your
yeah.
contribution," whatever. But I saw people leave after he had not humiliated them as far as things he had said. They humiliated themselves as being
They
so
did.
off base, and they thought they had won arguments. They would go off and wave and throw the finger at people and stuff. It was just, you think people like that are just lost souls.
They are. They really are. And isn't it funny that in, instead of burning the midnight oil to iron out problems with colleagues, Democrats want to go burn down cities. What does that solve? You don't see us burning down cities. You don't see us rioting. You see us having prayer vigils, all these prayer vigils for Charlie. And I'm just praying that
Yeah,
more young people turn to Christ because
and
of
that may
him.
happen because God says that everything works together for those who love Him, and He's omnipotent. He's omniscient. He knew this was going to happen before the beginning of time. He's going to use it for His purposes, and if it brings more people to Charlie's position, if it brings more people to Christ, then that's going to be wonderful, because we all know, Christians know, they can kill us bodily, but we go immediately to be with God.
Right.
And that's not something that anybody would have a problem with. That's wonderful. We miss them here, but we know we'll see them later. So we know we'll get to see Charlie again, despite how unhappy and how desperately sad his wife and his two children are. You know, they know they will see him again.
Yes.
These people, they can't kill the soul. They can only kill the body.
And I think it's going to inspire, not like they are inspired by rioting and looting and burning, but it's going to inspire a bunch of young people to accept Christ and to carry on what Charlie was trying to do, educate people. And he was sort of an evangelist.
He
Really.
was he was an evangelist to the colleges, because every one of his visits that I'm familiar with, he was talking about his faith and Jesus and what he had done for him, and, you know, encouraging people in that faith. And
Right.
that's what you call an evangelist, and showing what faith in God and belief in God and belief in the Bible, how it will change your belief system.
Right. The
And there, I just want to go over a couple of more things that to
Okay.
me are just incredible. Did you know that within the last couple of weeks, this is almost impossible for me to even say here in 2025, there were some witches on Etsy that were hired to put a spell on him.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. The piece, this was a piece for a few days before his death, and I'll just read this. U.S. News and Opinion site Jezebel published an article cursing Mr. Kirk. The piece ran with the headline, "We paid some Etsy witches to curse Charlie Kirk," and detailed the author's conversations and experiences with multiple self-described witches who were offering to curse people over the small business site Etsy. The author of the story purchased several spells from different witches, including a make everyone hate him spell, a powerful hex spell, and another hex from another witch called Priestess Lylan, who reportedly sent a video of Mr. Kirk's picture being set on fire. This is where we are in 2025 America.
Yeah. And if you're,
That
go ahead.
No, that the concept of witchcraft is rebellion against God. That's what it means. Is witchcraft is rebellion against God and God's chosen.
That's true. And that's rebellion when you say you can be a man and you're a woman, or vice versa. That's rebelling against, we're God's image bearers. And he does not make mistakes. And whenever you try to change what you look like or the body he gave you, that is rebellion to me.
Yeah, very definitely. When you see that, it has gotten worse and worse over the years. I kind of tend, of course, you know, for most of us, and Rush Limbaugh used to say this, for most of us, history begins the day we were born, because we don't,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
can't pass that. But I do remember, I don't remember the actual event because I was still pretty young, but in 1963 and 64 and 65, a series of Supreme Court rulings took prayer out of school, took Bible reading out of school, took any kind of scripture and teaching out of this, because supposedly, you know, the religion versus the state. And, you know, when you look at charts and graphs about violence and about the loss of learning, it's amazing what's happened since then.
Right.
You know, we throw God out of our country, and then we're surprised and appalled at what happens over the next 30 or 40 years. You know, and what is it, 60 years, something like that, a couple of generations, and it doesn't take long. You know, God says, if you don't want me here, okay, but you're not going to like what you get when I leave, because
Right.
there is no such thing as vacuum. When God leaves, evil comes in.
God's a gentleman. He's not going to stay where he's not wanted.
No, Jesus said, when you go into a village, if they won't receive you, you just leave dust, you know, knock the dust off of your feet and leave them to their things. He doesn't force himself on anybody.
Right.
And so I look at behavior like that. I look at this rise that we have, that, you know, if you are a Bible believing Christian, you know, I don't have any animosity for them, but I am strongly opposed to homosexuality, because the Bible condemns it, both New Testament, Old Testament, as well as condemning fornication, which is shacking up together, you know, having sex before married, and adultery, and several other things. You know, the Bible condemns a lot of stuff. So this is one. And all of a sudden, over the years, we've said, oh, this is fine. Of course, we've said fine to the others, too. How many children are born out of wedlock? That's fornication. How many divorces do we have now? Of course, the Bible also says if you divorce a woman for anything other than immorality and marry another when you've committed adultery. So we've got a lot of people living in adultery in this country based on what the Bible says. And I find it interesting that pride is such a big issue in the homosexual continuum. That's what I call it. Listen to this. Pride is the devil's favorite form of filth. Pride says, I'm correct, not God. I'll do it my way, not God's. Pride always comes before a fall. Now, that's kind of sort of a misquotation of that. The actual verse says, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. That's in Proverbs 16. Pride was the sin that got Lucifer thrown out of heaven. But what do we focus on today in our today's society? Making everybody proud of themselves, regardless of what you're doing. That's where we get your little trophies, consolation trophies,
Right.
I guess.
Affirmation.
We are so concentrated on affirming everybody. No wonder, no matter whether or not what they've done deserves affirmation. This is why we've got this problem with pride and arrogance in the country right now. And that's part of what we see. I wonder if this shooter had ever been told no in his life. Now, according to what I've seen and what I've read, it looked like he came from the all-American family.
I heard
But
when I was coming out here to the studio that his father was a policeman.
right.
And I don't know, they were saying something about Antifa, and I didn't quite catch it. I don't know if he was a member of Antifa and that brainwashed him or what.
Well, we'll see, as days go by, we'll see what possibly where his motivation came from. But apparently he got a lot more interested in politics after he graduated high school, and that would imply that he was going to college. And of course, that's where a lot of people get turned. I have friends who have said that their kids were good conservative Christian kids until they went to college, and it
Yes,
changed, and they just became, unrecognizable in what they supported and how they acted and everything. So, Charlie talked about how schools were damaging, how colleges were damaging our students. Instead of learning centers, they were becoming indoctrination centers.
that's right.
Um, and how then this is a natural result of that. So I would be very interested to know if he was in college and started feeling this way, because he was 200 miles away, I think, from the college where Charlie Kirk was going to have. So if he killed him, he had to go, 4 or 5 hour drive
Mm.
and take his gun and try to do this. It's just unimaginable.
He was determined. He was really determined. Just wished that he had missed. Um, well, Iris, I don't have anything else to say. It's just we all as a country, well, at least half, have a heartache, and we know that God takes bad things and turns them to good. So, like I say, I'm praying that this will lead a lot of people to Christ, especially young people. And I did hear on the radio the other day that Bible sales are through the roof, and it surprised me. And I think they said that it was young people buying them.
I
So,
hope so. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, that's all I was going to say. That I hope that's true. I hope that's what
Well,
results out of this.
I hope so too. I got this too. The devil and all of those who follow him are increasing their attacks. I think we'll see more of this, and we've seen a lot of it already against believers in Christ. And he warned us about that. Christ warned us in the Bible that this would happen. Those who hate Christ and all his commandments and principles are on hyperactive, they're on hyperdrive
Yeah,
against anyone who loves him and is open and as articulate as Charlie was about loving him.
right.
What they don't realize is that anyone they murder who belongs to Christ goes immediately to be with him. And the ones who murdered one of God's children, will pay the price
Right.
on Judgment Day. The wicked ones mean it for evil, but God means it for his glory and his purpose. It's likely that the harder the wicked political factions fight against righteousness, the more they discredit themselves, maybe even chasing those on the fence to run from them toward the ones that they persecute. And I think they don't have an excuse. These people that are doing this don't have an excuse. People say, well, they haven't had the word, they haven't had any training and teaching. And in Romans 1:20, that used to make me wonder, is it their fault if they haven't heard? Romans 1:20, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his external power, his eternal power, and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that there is no excuse. People are without excuse. So you don't, yeah, and that means none of us have an excuse for this. This
Right.
is just sheer evil. And I'm very concerned that a lot of these people that I see doing this are absolutely demon possessed.
Yeah.
The demons are in control of them. We
It's
know that can
demonic.
happen because Christ, he took demons out of people. We know that's possible. Those
Yeah.
are Satan's demons. And I see the look like this young man, he could very well be, because you see the look on his eye. This is not bizarre. This is not medieval to believe that some people are occupied. They have given themselves over to demon control.
Right. And wasn't it on Star Wars whenever they were killed, they were stronger than they were before? Their
I don't know. I
influence.
didn't like Star Wars. I
You
was a
didn't like
Star Trek
Star
fan.
Wars.
I was a
That
Star
just
Trek fan.
so Charlie's legacy will go on, and as I said, God takes bad things and He can turn it into good. And on that note, I think we'll sign off, and we will see you all next week.